Welcome back again to Spotlight, where we feature the University of Central Arkansas's College of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. I'm Donna Lampkin-Stevens, and we have a very special guest and show today because we're going back to our roots on Spotlight. Joining me is my very first co-host, Penny Hatfield, who is now in Department of
Outreach and Community Engagement.
Outreach and Community Engagement. Welcome back, Penny.
It's great to be back. I miss Spotlight. I love doing that with you. It was so fun.
I mean, we haven't done it each other, have we? We've
No.
always interviewed other people.
That's exactly right.
This
That's
will be
exactly
good. This
right.
will be good.
Yeah.
So the reason we're doing this, because we love you, is you're getting ready to retire.
I am.
You're one of those, and so and you have been such a huge part of UCA for how many years?
37.
Wow.
Yeah, I started very, very young.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Well, let's go back. So you didn't grow up around here.
Nope. I'm originally from Illinois. I went to school at Indiana State in Terre Haute. And
Studied what?
I studied communication and double majored communication, political science, minored in theater.
Okay.
And then my master's was in communication. One of the things that I did when I was at Indiana State was I kind of had an emphasis in oral interpretation of literature. And at that time, Sally Roden was a speech professor, communications professor here at UCA, and she ran their forensics program. And every year, in December actually, I think it was maybe the first weekend in December, or maybe it was around Thanksgiving, we would go to Petit Jean Mountain for the Oral Interpretation Festival, the Petit Jean Oral Interpretation Festival. And so that's how I knew Sally. I mean, not well, but you know, I knew her certainly. And so when the position of Director of Public Appearances became vacant, or was becoming vacant in 1985, she contacted my mentor at Indiana State and said,
Oh, I didn't
"Hey,"
realize
yeah,
Sally
she
brought
said-
you here.
Yeah, she said, "Hey, do you think Penny would be interested?" And well, I was a graduate student. What the heck? Why not? I don't have anything to lose. And so I came down and interviewed, and
Wow.
they hired me.
Okay, so I think a lot of people don't realize that position predated Reynolds Performance Hall.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
So actually, Public Appearances was really started by Ralph Behrens, although it wasn't called that. But he kind of started that in the English department. And then it transitioned to what was at that time continuing education, what we now know as outreach and community engagement. So in some ways, I feel like I've sort of come full circle. The person that held the position prior to me was in continuing ed. When I got hired and started in January of 1986, I actually reported to the president, Dr. Jeff Ferris.
Okay.
And then when Thompson became president, he moved that position to reporting to public affairs, John Ward at the time, which we now know as advancement. And so, but then I've lived my life long enough here at UCA that I've come back to outreach and community engagement.
You've been in a number of. So
I
sort of
have-
talk about all those positions you've held over
I've
the
lived
years.
many lives on this
Yes,
campus.
yes. Yeah, I mean, you're Miss UCA.
I've lived many lives on this campus. Some of them I can talk about. But I started out as Director of Public Appearances, and I really held that position until Guy came, until 2000.
And it was bringing in.
It was bringing in the same, maybe not the same level of artists because we didn't have the facility. So back then all I had was Ida Waldron, and then we also used Conway Public Schools Auditorium a little later. Because Ida is so landlocked, it's very, very hard.
In Old Main.
In Old Main. It's very, very hard, as you know, for an audience to get to Ida if they can find a place to park on this campus and to get to Ida. And so, and especially since many of our patrons were older patrons, and I don't mean old like I am now, but I mean, you know, just even in their 40s or so, you know, it's hard to, you know, you end up parking somewhere else. And when Thompson, as you know, made it more of a pedestrian campus, so then there were fewer roads that you could travel, fewer parking lots where you could park. And so we moved a lot of things to the public schools auditorium just because of the accessibility.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did a dual role, 98 to 2000, when Guy was hired.
Guy Couch.
When Guy Couch was hired, and not, I think 98 was the year maybe that I transitioned to admissions as an assistant director and then became director in 2000.
Okay, so let's back up there. So in your days as in public appearances, who were some of the people you brought in?
Oh, Gregory Hines.
That's before my time.
Gregory Hines and we brought in Gary Berghoff in
Radar.
Radar
From MASH.
I'm trying to think of the play he was in, Last of the Red Hot Lovers, maybe something like that. Riders in the Sky, James Earl Jones.
Wow.
The Kansas City Ballet Company. For several years, we did the Winter Solstice series, which was very, very popular. That had a huge following, and that was very, very popular. So yeah,
I'm impressed that you could do all that really without a facility.
Yeah, I'm impressed I can remember that. I'll be honest. The Chinese acrobats, yeah.
So then you moved to admissions. And
I did. While I was in public affairs, though, in addition to public appearances, I also ended up doing fundraising.
Oh, okay. Before you went to admissions.
Right.
Okay.
I also ended up doing fundraising when
you're very good at that. I think.
Well, I don't know about that, but when Dr. Thompson came in, President Thompson, he wanted to start a phone-a-thon, and so he sent Libby Smith out, who was our director of the entire university's director of development. We had one person out to Las Cruces, New Mexico, to that institution, and she learned a lot about phone-a-thons. So she came back, and she and I started the very first phone-a-thon here at UCA, and that was way back when the administration building
is where Thompson Hall is now.
Is where Thompson Hall. It was one story, and it was still turquoise, and so that's where we did our very first phone-a-thon. And then for several years after that, because I was so good at it, I got to do it. That's the thing, is if you're good at something, you get to do it. So I got to do it, and I interviewed, I hired, I trained, I supervised UCA students making calls, and I will tell you it was a ton of fun.
Oh, you would be good at working with students. I mean,
it was fun. It was fun working with the students. It was fun because I knew a lot of the alumni and the donors because I had worked with the Half Century Club. All that stuff was in the same building. It still is now. But the alumni, the Half Century Club, all those folks, I knew a lot of people, that just were coming in and out. And in those days, we gave you a heads up, hey, you're going to be getting a call from a UCA student. So it wasn't a cold call. And, they would say, well, is so-and-so still there is Harry Reid and I are still in the history department? Is Vanita Lovelace Chandler over there in PT? And students would go, yes, she's there. I'm like, yes, she is. I said, let me talk to her. And so I would talk, and the students would go, now who is that? And it was a great way to teach students about their past.
Yes.
On this campus, and who these people were, and why they were important to UCA, and why they were beloved. Why people will tell you that Maurice Webb was the hardest history teacher that they will ever love because they loved his classes. And so, it was so fun to connect those current students with their past, and even with some of the current professors that were on campus.
Yeah. So, how about the move to admissions? How was that?
That was interesting and great. I knew I wasn't going to be in public appearances anymore, so I kind of still still took care of the program until I moved, until 2000 when Guy Couch came.
And that's when Reynolds opened.
And that's when Reynolds opened with Ray Charles, yes. And I also managed Ida Waldron Auditorium, and then it eventually went to student services. But I traveled the state as an admissions assistant director and got to meet students that were interested in UCA, and it was a ton of fun, it really was. I will say it would be, for me, much easier now that I have a phone that tells me how to get places.
Oh yeah.
Back then, it was kind of fun because we would all kind of caravan to the next to the next event, and that, you know, everybody was so nice. Even though we were competing for the same students on some level, we were sort of all in it together, whether you were from the University of Arkansas or Arkansas Tech or UCA or CBC down the road or, you know, UACCM. You know, you saw a lot of the same people on the road, and it was just kind of a family.
And how was that? I mean, you were on the road a lot.
You were on the road a lot. I was on the road a lot. My territory was Northwest Arkansas.
Okay.
And so I was on the road a lot, yeah.
And you went to high schools?
I went to high schools.
I mean, even just showing up at a high school event,
Yeah.
not a big admissions event.
Right, right.
Yeah,
I would sort of reserve time usually with the high school counselor and sort of set up shop. If it wasn't like a college planning program where the whole gymnasium or whatever was taken up. But yeah, you would do those individual high school visits and meet with students. And
really, Penny, that's a young person's job.
It's a young person's job.
So you did that how long?
I really only did it for a couple of years because I became director in 2000.
Okay. Okay. And what about the challenges so 2000, what's going on there? UCA is beginning to really grow.
UCA is beginning to really grow. Things are changing in the state somewhat. Scholarships are always a moving target. And you have a presidential change about then, too. And so all of those things
and that was when Dr.
Dr.
Thompson retired. Or not retired, left.
He left, yes. Yeah.
And then we had interim, and then we had Lou Hardin. And
yes, I worked for 6 presidents, and I didn't count the interims, I'll be honest. Too many to count, I think. I don't know. Bill Pate was interim before
Thompson.
I'm trying to think who. Oh,
John Smith.
John Smith, that's
After
right.
Thompson.
And also Dr. Hardy was interim in there somewhere too. H.B.
Yeah,
Hardy was interim.
I think before Thompson.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bill Pate and and he was my boss as director of public appearances too, but Mr. Pate and Dr. Hardy were there prior to Thompson, and then John Smith after Thompson.
And then
that's
Lou
right.
came in
maybe 2001, I don't know.
something
like
early
that.
2000s.
Yeah.
So and UCA was blowing and going.
Blowing and going.
And tell what was it like in it as director of admissions at that point?
Very busy.
Yeah.
Very, very busy. And in all
we got to 10,000 students at that time.
Oh yeah,
during that time.
Oh yeah. And the other fun thing was then we all, unfortunately, we lost somebody in computer services, and so we moved to Banner. And so in the midst of all of this, we are completely changing our lives.
Ooh.
I mean, when Lily Harmon passed away.
Is that what precipitated that? So tell the audience what Banner is. It's kind of a behemoth, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I try not to think about it since I don't have to anymore. But it is a behemoth. And so at that time, prior to Banner, IT was kind of in one place. It is now, but it's also scattered. I'll explain that in a minute. But Lily knew everything about everything on campus. And I could go, Lily was brilliant, and that she could talk what she needed to talk, and then she could talk to me, which is a whole nother issue for her, God love her. But I would say, okay, Lily, I need these screens, and they were screens at the time. I need 23, 24, 27, and I need this, this, and this. And she would say, Penny, what do you really want? And I would say, this is what I want. I want to know about high school students from Yale County who have a GPA of 3.0 or higher, with a 19 on the ACT or 17 on the ACT, because they'll have more opportunities to take it. And okay, this is what you need. And I'm like, golly, she's good. I mean, you know, she could just...
really the information technology. She was it. And so when Lily passed away very, very unexpectedly, we lost a ton of institutional knowledge. And when we lost that institutional knowledge, then we moved to Banner, which is a behemoth, it's a computer program that does a ton of things. And for those of us
who had dealt with Lily for all those years.
Oh, I bet.
It was such a hard transition. I'm like, and we didn't have any help in our individual areas. In admissions, I didn't get a person to help me, for example, put in all the codes for every state in the United States, or put in all the codes for every county or city because Banner didn't do that for you. You had to actually manually create all of that from the bottom up. And Karen Cagle, who was working in admissions, did a yeoman's job on that. It was just more than I could honestly wrap my head around. I couldn't believe it didn't just come with this. I mean, the 50 states aren't changing anytime soon.
Yeah, really.
I mean, the 75 counties aren't. I mean, there's some things that I get that you have to input, but some of those things I'm like, it probably does come with it now.
Yeah.
It didn't back then.
After feedback. So.
And now, as you know, most departments have an IT person that can help them with things.
Yes. Ooh, I have
tons of fun.
Greater appreciation for you there.
Tons of fun.
So when did you leave admissions?
The first time I left admissions in 2007 and got to join y'all.
College of Fine Arts and Communication.
College of Fine Arts and Communication. I still had 2007 was the 100-year anniversary of UCA. And so one of my, I don't know how I get these opportunities, but somehow I got the opportunity to have a Centennial 5K.
I remember that. I ran it.
Yep. And so I was in charge of the Centennial 5K. What that had to do with admissions, I don't know. What it had to do with anything, I don't know. But anyway, I got to do that. It was, I will say, fun. It was a lot of fun, actually. But I organized all of that, and so I was still doing a little cleanup there when I moved to y'all as your director of development.
And we worked with Dr. Roland Potter, former dean.
That was so fun.
Our good friend, and and then we started this show. It was his idea, as
was.
I recall.
It was. It was so many good ideas. I mean, oh my gosh, Dr. Potter, just a wonderful man and a great visionary.
I agree.
I mean, just, the Shakespeare Theater, Spotlight. I mean, there's so many things that he created while he was here at UCA that have just lived on and will continue to live on. But it was because of his foresight. And we are so lucky to have had him here when we
and to work with him.
And to work with him.
And we started this, and I hated it at the beginning, and now it's grown on me after 15 years. And we really we spotlighted the college, and we had never had any sort of outreach like that.
And it was so great because you got to know those not just that Brent Shires plays this instrument, but maybe what his hobbies are, those kinds of things, and just fun things about people that you don't always get to know, when you see them on stage and they're so talented in that one area, but maybe their hobby's collecting baseball cards, or I don't know. But
and we become, you just get to know people. You build relationships.
You do. So. You do. And you become more of a family.
Yeah. So from CFAC, then what?
Then I went back to admissions in 2009. We lost the director, and
that was after Lou left?
That was when Tom Courtwood was our interim president. And he contacted me, asked me if I'd come back to admissions. I said, yes, I would. I said, by the way, have you told Dr. Potter? He said, no, I think I should do that. I said, I think you should. Anyway, he asked me to come back, and I said, sure. So I did. And
as director?
As interim.
As interim.
As interim.
Okay.
And then they hired Ron Patterson, who was also great for UCA. He was wonderful, and I miss him. He was here for a relatively short time, but I learned a lot from Ron, and he was really really great.
So when he became director, you just moved back into it?
I became an senior associate director.
Okay.
And really what I did was I ran the office.
Yeah.
I ran the office, and for the most part, and that was good because I knew most of the answers or where to find them. You know,
by this time you have the institutional knowledge.
By this time I do.
Yes, yes.
And Ron's going, I'm going, I got this, don't worry. And you know, so I could answer questions, and I loved that. I loved that role. I loved working with Ron. I loved being there in the office, helping with sort of difficult. We had one, for example, that I can think of off the top of my head, and because they became directors on the Family Network, which I later revived. But they were so upset, bless their hearts, that their daughter had not been yet admitted to UCA, but she'd been admitted to the Honors College.
Oh.
And they were really upset with us. And they said, Penny, can you talk to these people because they are mad? And I'm like, of course I can talk to them. Happy to talk to them. So I visited with them, and I said, okay, you know, and they told me what was wrong, and I said, okay, give me a few minutes. I can figure this out. Computers are wonderful things. However, if your student transposes their
ID number,
their social security number, the computer's not necessarily going to figure out that that's the same person. So I went and physically pulled files, and I said, okay, this is the same person. So I called them. I said, I've figured it out. I know what's happened. And they went, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. I said, no. Don't be sorry. Please don't be sorry. Thank you for calling us. We don't know we have a problem sometimes unless somebody tells us.
Sure.
I want somebody to tell me if we got a problem so we can fix it, or at least address it. I mean, we might not be able to fix it, you know, but at least we can address it. Everybody gets on the same page, knows what's going on, why something has happened. And I said, no, thank you. I mean, we got her admitted that day because we had everything. It was just she transposed her her social security
on a paper
on a
type,
something that she had submitted.
Oh, okay.
And so you know, it just happens.
Yeah.
Guess what? We're human.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. But that was great because it led to a wonderful relationship. We had Sheila Vaught was a Board of Trustees member, and she'd gone to Tom and said, hey, you know, when my kids were in school at this university, they had a parent board, and I think we should do that at UCA. So Tom went to Colin Stanton, who was working over SOS, and he said, would you do this? And Colin's like, man, I don't think I've got the bandwidth to do it. So Colin called me, and he said, can you help me with this? And I said, you betcha. I said, I even know who we need to put on the board.
Yes.
And so that led to creating the Parent Family Network, the UCA Family Network. And those folks were on my board for several years, and just became a great relationship to have them. Their daughter was in physical therapy, and so she got her DPT from UCA. And you know, that was just a mistake that was a wonderful happenstance, I guess.
Worked out great.
Yeah.
So you were there this time for how long?
I was there until about 2014, I think it was. Okay. Ron had left, and then Leanne Hartog was the interim. And so Shelley Mill was over in advancement. We're now calling it advancement. And I went over there to do communications for her.
Okay.
She then went to outreach and community engagement to be their associate VP, and then I went over to do help with marketing.
Okay, so that's how you wound up back over here.
That's how I wound up back over
with
in
Shelley.
outreach. Yeah.
And that was 14?
I'm going to say 16 maybe,
Okay.
I'm guessing.
So wow, you've had lots of...
I have lived many lives.
You have. So tell us about your work with outreach.
So it's been so fun. Outreach is just a great place to be, first of all. Second of all, the people are wonderful. Christy Carter, Dr. Christy Carter is my immediate supervisor. She's fabulous. Dr. Chanel Ely is our associate vice president. She is fabulous. I get to work with a lot of great people. I came in as their assistant director of marketing, which is what I'm leaving as, but they let me do all kinds of other things in the meantime. For years when we were able to do it, I went to Julie's every Friday, which is not a good thing for your pocketbook or your hips, but it tastes really good on the way down. Julie's is fabulous, and I love her. But I did the community show on Fridays out there, and that was just fun. It was great because I got to see people and talk about things, and I would talk about all things UCA, not just outreach. I would talk about Reynolds, what was coming up at Reynolds, or if we had a basketball game or a football game or whatever, that was particularly interesting to folks. But I did talk a lot about UCA events through outreach, what classes we were offering and that kind of thing. The culinary classes, of course, were so much fun, and other classes. And I'm taking my first class this time through outreach, and it's actually through the School of Languages, the UCA Community School of Languages, and I'm taking Spanish.
You're taking that now?
I am.
Okay, good.
I am. And it's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. It's via Zoom, which I kind of thought, don't know if I'm going to like this, but it's not bad. I mean, but I do, Jessica Martin is the instructor. She's a UCA alum, and so she teaches actually at Searcy High School. But she does this class, and she's great, and it's fun because I get to tell her she'll ask me about somebody on campus, the parrot's still there, yes, John and Jen are still here, and talk about former people she's had in her class. Dr. Amy Baldwin took that class, and so, those kinds of things. So it's just a lot of fun to do those catch-ups.
You had never taken an outreach class before?
I had, but I'd never taken a language class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what led to your, well, let's do that in a minute. Tell us about personally.
Okay.
What's JD?
My husband, JD.
Yep.
We've been married for 25 years.
Okay. You met him here?
No, I didn't actually. He is an alum. He is a UC alum.
Okay.
But a mutual friend of ours was working for a company called Bylights. My husband worked for a company called MP Productions. Both are production companies out of Little Rock. And our friend, turns out, our friend BR called me the night that President Clinton was elected, in the first time, in '92. And he called and he said, what are you doing election night? And I said, sitting home, watching the return. I don't know, nothing. I mean, it's not like Valentine's, you've got plans. I mean, come on. I said, I don't know, Bill, what? And he said, well, my site is the State House Convention Center. And I said, okay. He said, you want to come? I said, yeah. He said, I mean, I don't care. You don't get to be where history is being made very often.
Right.
And win or lose, history was going to be made that night, And so I was like, okay, sure. And he said, now, I can get you in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it's going to be like 2 o'clock in the morning before I can get you out. And I said, hey, that's why a person has vacation days. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, I'd been in Food for Less, which is now $10 or something like that. But I'd been in Food for Less a couple of days earlier, and I'm single, I'm 32. I see this guy that I'm like, oh man, he's got this long blonde hair. And I'm like, oh, he's the most interesting guy I've ever seen in Conway, Arkansas. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm looking at men in Food for Less. This is just, this is not a good thing. This is not a good thing for you. So a few weeks later, I go down to the Little Rock Convention Center, which is my friend BR's site. So I go in and I'm milling around. I mean, I've done public appearances since 1986 now, so for 6 years at this point. And so I know how to hang loose in the back, and just kind of hang out. And I'm watching Andrea Mitchell and others do stand-ups there, and that's kind of fun just to watch how that happens. And so BR says, come here, I want you to introduce you to the crew. And so he's going along. And this is JD Hatfield. And I said, and you shop at Food for Less in Conway. I did. And so we kind of spent the night hanging out together. He was running monitors for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and everybody else that was on the stage that night. And they let me introduce the newly elected president.
Oh.
Whenever he came on stage, because they didn't have...
Oh, I didn't realize that, Penny.
They didn't have an announcer, and so they let me do that, which was a ton of fun, and then JD's been in my life ever since.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And you love dogs. I know that
love
you're...
dogs.
Okay,
I do. I have an Australian cattle dog, Harper, who is 10, and we do agility, and and she's got a little arthritis, so we don't do as many jumps as we used to. But I'm hoping in retirement to get a puppy, maybe a border collie, and start working with that puppy on agility.
Good. And you've also, near to my heart, been involved with rescue and fostering.
Yes, yes, and that is actually, I really want to work with, I'm hoping to work with, I should say it this way, the West Tennessee Border Collie Rescue to find a dog. And so I'm hoping to be able to do that.
Good,
yeah.
good. So you've also done a lot of voice work. Talk about, you were in our film, The Old Gray Lady. Yes. So tell us about how you got
I don't know
involved.
how that got started, but I can't remember, I'll be honest, but I worked for Danny Avra for a long time. People in Conway would hear me say, this lovely 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home located in Southwest Avenue. I mean, you know, Julia Windenfay, Dr. Julia Windenfay laughs about that all the time. There you are, the soundtrack to my life. And I'm like, oh, honey, you got to get a better life. But yeah, I've done some voiceover work.
And you're doing, you're continuing to do interview shows with such as Campus Conversations through Outreach.
Yes, yes. I'm really enjoying that a lot. That's another thing, you know, Outreach has allowed me to just kind of do whatever I want to do. As long as I do my marketing stuff, they'll let me do whatever else I want to do. And so one of the things that I started, I guess it was last fall, was a program called Raising Your Parents. And I did several installments of that program. We looked at nursing home versus in-home care versus senior living versus assisted living and the differences of all those kinds of things. We did a segment on Medicare. We did a segment on law, on wills, trusts. What's the difference? What's the best for your family? Those kinds of things. We did a segment on dementia. We did a segment on just general health of older people. And in all honesty, it was a way for me to learn some things. My mother is 86, 85 then when I started it, but you know, just to get some education on some things. And I thought, you know, I can't be the only person going through this.
Well, this is perfect for outreach.
Yeah,
I mean, community engagement. Yeah,
it was, and we averaged 25 people per class, and that was a Zoom class.
Yeah,
I mean, and so and really did topics that were very instrumental in helping people make decisions at times when it's really hard. It's hard to know, and a lot of people, I'm not in this situation, but you know, a lot of people are raising kids or helping with grandkids, and their parents are aging and they're still working, and how many more balls can be in the air, you know? And so having those kinds of programs to help them, you know, figure out this pathway and this roadway to the next steps was really beneficial.
Yeah, good. So why now? Why retire now?
Well, it's a good segue because as I said, my mother is 86 and she needs a little bit more help. She still lives in Illinois, and so I need to be making more trips more often and staying longer. And I'm an only child, so it falls to me. Although, as I've said, I could be in a family of 10 and still be the only one involved with my mother's care. My father passed away in 1986, and so it's just me and her. And so this will enable me to be, we've been doing this. I've been using vacation and sick leave to go up there, and I recently had a hip replaced back in August, and my husband was great. JD was great about going up there and checking on Mom and you know, those kinds of things, but it's just getting to be too much. And so she's in an assisted living facility right now. She's doing great. She wants to come home.
Go to her home.
She wants to go to her home. She wants to go to her home, and I understand that. And I am sort of working towards that. I've said, you know, we can do this. You've just got to have help. You can't go back there by yourself. We had renovated her bathroom to a walk-in. We'd put in a ramp from her house to the garage, so she didn't have to deal with steps. But we just got to have more than that. And so this will allow me. Retirement will allow me to be able to find the right people, especially when you're so far away, taking care of your parents. You want to make sure you've got the right people that you can trust. And so this will allow me to do that. It'll also allow me to just go up there and stay longer and not have to be concerned about checking my email and responding to a text or responding to something else. I can just devote my time to that.
So what will you do besides that and the puppy?
Well, I do want to try. I do want to do some dog training. I'm looking forward to that. I talked to Charlotte Strickland the other day. I said, here's what we really need at UCA. I mean, there's so many things I could tell you, but I said, I said I used to do this at Move-In Day. We do a great job at Move-In Day, sending people their information, and they get up to Short Denny, and our fabulous SOSers are there to unload and take everything in, and then it's usually Dad, but somebody goes and parks a vehicle somewhere, and how does he get back to Short Denny, and are those people even still there, and how do I get back to my car once I found my people? And so what I would do on Move-In Day after I formed my family network, I would leave them at the tent and say, y'all have at it. You talk to these parents, you know what to say to them. I got in a golf cart and just rode around and found people. My daughter's in Short Denny, I think. Okay, hop in, we'll go. Or especially, I'm amazed at the number of grandparents that come to Move-In Day, and find them and say, okay, where do you think you're going, or where do you want to go? Hop in, I'll give you a ride. I said, my parent people couldn't do that because they didn't know the layout of UCA.
Right.
And it's got to be people who know that. I said, it would be great to have a sort of a bear brigade, a golf cart brigade to do that. Same thing at graduation. I've worked a ton of graduations. And I think of those, it's in the Ferris Center, which is not friendly in that everything's a step. Everything's, everything's steps. And so, I watch people that end up having to park way out there by the baseball field or over at Estes Stadium somewhere or wherever else, and then they have to walk in, usually go up to the second floor to find a seat, and then they have to walk back out. And so, if we sort of had a brigade of golf carts that could pick people up, bring them up so they didn't have to be exhausted, hand them a program when they got in, welcomed them to UCA, so proud of your graduate, we're excited for you, those kinds of things. I think that would be fun.
So I mean, are there plans for that?
No, I don't know, but I thought I'd throw that out.
I think it's a great idea.
I thought I'd throw that idea out
because
there.
You don't want to not ever come back. I mean,
my
you're
gosh,
too much. You're too much a part of UCA.
No, and I'd love, if the president or the provost or somebody has a special project and say, "Hey, Penny, could you do this?" Yeah, maybe I could. That would be awesome. That'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I often realize, and I think about this a lot of institutional knowledge walks out the door when people retire.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
And people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And you may think you have a great idea. Well, we thought it was a great idea too. Let me tell you why it didn't work.
Yeah. 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I know you think it's a great idea because I thought it was a great idea. But this is why it didn't work out,
Yeah.
Or now we've got the tools that we can make it work, and here's how we can make it work.
Right.
And so I think there are a lot of opportunities to use retired faculty and staff that want to be used. Not everybody wants to be used.
But I think that's a great idea, Penny. And one of these days I'm on the downhill slide. I mean, it'll be a while, but yeah, because I've thought about that, and I don't ever want to think that I won't be a part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just in going in, I volunteered to work basketball the other day, Saturday, and I don't remember the name of the young woman who was over the staff that were volunteering. I said, "Have you ever done this before?" And she said, "No." I said, "Okay, let me help you out. Let me explain to you where the handicap accessible bathrooms are, because you're going to need to know this." I mean, and some other things that happened to be Ron Marvel Day, the Ron Marvel folks, had special seating, those kinds of things. I just kind of know those things intrinsically somehow, because I'm plugged
37
in.
years.
Well,
too.
37 years, but I'm also pretty plugged in to what's going on, and so these are the things as the person at the top here over the staff, here are the things I think you should know, and where things are, and not everybody can do that, and I'm not trying to take your job. I'm just saying, let me give you a heads up,
I want you to pursue that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan, because lots of people, like you said, lots of people with deep institutional knowledge and love for UCA.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've talked to Polly Walter. We're about to talk to John Gale. So lots of these people will still want to be around.
Oh yeah,
Some,
yeah.
some, just not every day.
I'm still helping with the commencement
Okay,
this
good.
December, and I'm fine to continue helping with
Yeah.
commencement. That's the most fun.
Oh, I know. It's the best part of the year.
It is
So,
the best part of the year. I mean, moving day's a ton of fun because they're moving in, they're all excited, and blah blah blah. But then there are all those tears.
Yeah.
There are tears on graduation, but they're happy tears.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
that's just the best time. People
Yeah.
come and they're dressed up and they're excited and they're proud of their student and all those kinds of things. And it really, truly is just the best day.
So, Penny, what has UCA meant to you over the years?
Wow. It's really where I grew up.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, this is really where I grew up. You
You were what, 20?
I was 26 when I came. Actually, I was 25 when I came. I turned 26. And I really grew up. And I got to see Dr. Thompson's a perfect example of this, I think. Everybody talks about what a beautiful institution UCA is. It is because of Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, yeah.
It's because of his vision. I got to see with Dr. Potter, with Dr. Thompson, and others, those visions that are going to outlast their stay here, but are going to mean so much to the institution. And watching Dr. Thompson come in and the azaleas, the more Georgian architecture on the campus, making the conformity, which makes it a beautiful campus. And that's the first thing people say, whether it's they're coming for a campus tour because they're a prospective student, or they're returning back to campus as a half-century club or as a parent of a prospective student, they are always knocked out by the beauty of this institution. And like I said, looking at people like President Thompson and Dr. Potter, who have left those lasting legacies through Arkansas Shakespeare Theater and others, it's just, it's just amazing. And watching that happen. But growing up, and I've learned a lot, and I'd like to share that information.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Well, we will miss you, my friend, but I don't think you're going to be gone.
I won't be far. I won't be far. I'm just an email, a text, a phone call away.
And you do get to retain your UCA email.
I do get to retain my
Good.
UCA email, so you can contact me anytime. If you need a sub for Spotlight, you know where I live.
Hey, that's a deal. That's a deal.
Because this is a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Penny, thank you for joining us on Spotlight.
Thank you for having
Thank you
me.
for all your service to UCA. We're better for having had you. So,
thank you.
join us again next time for Spotlight.